says menacingly as the man burst into tears. Come on, man, the biker says. I didn't think you'd cry. I can't stand to see a man crying. This is the worst day of my life, the man says. I'm a complete failure. I was late to a meeting and my boss fired me. When I went to the parking lot, I found my car had been stolen and I don't have any insurance. I left my wallet in the cab I took home. There, I found my wife with another man, and then my dog bit me. So I came to this bar to work up the courage to put an end to it all. I'd buy a drink, I'd drop a cyanide capsule in and sit here watching the poison dissolve, and then you show up and drink the whole damn thing. But hell, enough about me. How are you doing? And on that note, I think it's appropriate to close with this Irish toast in honor of our sailing friends, Greg and his partner, Betty. There are good ships and there are wood ships, the ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and may they always be. Back to you, President Gavin.
Julie, thank you so much. Excellent job. Ron, thank you for the invocation. And I welcome everybody. It's great to be with you. I missed being off last week. I hope you all had an opportunity to spend some time maybe with family or enjoying some nice time last week. It's been a hard Rotary week for me. It's been for all of us. We've got some friends who are struggling, and we're going to talk a bit about that a bit more. But before we do that, I've got the piece that I want, one of the pieces I enjoy the most about our meetings now is this member minute. And I've asked Courtney Knoll to give us her member minute today. So Courtney, would you mind doing that?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to share my story with you all. I'm Courtney Knoll, and I think as we were talking earlier, most of you probably know, or if you don't, you will soon know, I'm on the faculty at Keenan Flagler. I've been sitting in this chair for the past year doing a lot of these meetings with students. And so to that end, I thought I'd do what I do, which is to share a PowerPoint presentation. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Excellent. This is me. So my story started in the Tar Heel State because I was born in Wilmington. I mean, my family's longtime North Carolinians. My dad born and raised in Roxborough, North Carolina. So my roots are here, but I moved around a lot, which is, you know, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I started in North Carolina. I stayed here for a little while, took a tour to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, then to Zachary, Louisiana, right outside of Baton Rouge, and then landed in Selma, Alabama. All that happened between 0 and 6th grade. Happily, I did land somewhere by middle school so that I could get my feet under me for those very delicate years. No, before anybody asks, my dad wasn't in the military, so the excuses for all these moves are not as good as probably they should be. He worked in the paper industry, but I had a good life and enjoyed all of those towns. But Selma was good to me, but I definitely did not want to stay. Although I did enjoy my time, I left and never went back by going to college at UVA. Fell in love with Charlottesville when I went there the first time. I stayed there for 4 years, had a blast, majored in finance, and then moved to Atlanta and worked at Trust Company Bank, which maybe some of you know is the precursor to SunTrust Bank. That was my first real job in their corporate banking training program. Was very proud to be a part of that esteemed organization, which has maybe some of you know the Coke formula in its vault, and was very much proud of the fact that they took Coke public back in the long ago time and accepted, instead of the $110,000 cash that they were offered, the same amount of Coke stock, which was a pretty good investment over the years. I didn't want to work too hard, so I went back to school after a couple of years, back to Virginia, and got my master's in accounting. And after getting that degree, I went back to Atlanta and worked at what was at the time the best public accounting firm in the world. And I'm very proud to be an alum of Arthur Andersen. I had a great time, learned a lot, worked there for 5 years. But as maybe the trend you're picking up on continues, I need to go back to school again. So this time I come to Carolina to get my PhD in accounting because I want to live the dream and be an accounting professor. And so I fell in love with Chapel Hill, fell in love with Carolina. I've been here ever since. I finished my PhD in 2004 and was invited to join the faculty at Keenan Flagler right out of the program. So that's where I stay to this day. It's been 17 years. I teach tax in the Master of Accounting program that we were just talking about a little earlier. And I love my students and I love my job, but I do have a hot off the presses news update for me professionally, which is as of July 1, I will be stepping into the dean role for that program. So that's going to be a new exciting challenge for me. We'll see how it goes. Former dean has been there for 10 years, and that's a really long stretch in a role like that. So I'm stepping into some big shoes, but I'm looking forward to it. I also am the associate director of the UNC Tax Center, which is another fun way that I get to get outside of the classroom and connect academic wonky research to practitioners and policy. So that's something I really enjoy doing. And probably most of you know that the crowning achievement in my professional and personal life is as a Rotarian, and I am the treasurer of this esteemed organization, again, filling the big shoes left by Lyda Coleman. So I guess thanks to Cliff Butler, I'm a part of this group as of 4 years ago. And I also, outside of work, have a family. I'm married to an amazing guy, Sam Knoll, who I've been married to for a couple of years, and almost a couple of years. So we're fell in love as old people, but we are very happily having a great time. It's a good time to be in love during a pandemic. I bought this house where I'm living in 2 weeks before I met him, and I gave up my dining room in order to fit my grand piano. And turns out Sam had a former life as a culinary student, and so he cooks for us all the time, but we don't have enough place for all of our family to sit because we have two stepsons. One's at Virginia Tech, one's at App State, and my son's a senior in high school, and he is currently deciding between Carolina, Virginia, and Tufts, and we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks where he lands. That's my story. I appreciate the 2 or 3 minutes to tell it, and I look forward to getting to know everybody a little better. If you didn't know me well now, hopefully that background will give you the opportunity to reach out to me and get to know me better.
Courtney, thank you so much for sharing. Super accomplished people we have in this group, and I think that's obvious when we see presentations like that. I want to thank you personally for all that you've done to help me and help our club through some excellent leadership and management of our financial needs, and we're grateful for your serving in that role as treasurer of our club. So thank you so much. Well, we have some announcements today, some important announcements, but I'm going to start with one that I think is the most important. I alluded to this having been a little bit of a rough week, and I've always been touched by the strength of the people we have in this club, the character of the people that we have. We do good things in our community and beyond, but one of the strengths that I think is even more important than that is our network of friends and Rotarians as a member of this club, and the ability that we have to be there for one another, to support one another, to lift each other up in hard times, to celebrate good times. And certainly we've got some members who have been through some tough times. This week, Greg Bradbury has been weighing heavily on my heart. If you aren't aware, hopefully you saw the announcement earlier this week. Greg is in grave health, and this has come about relatively quickly and has advanced very rapidly. And so all of your positive thoughts and prayers for Greg, and indeed for Betty, who is also suffering some serious health issues as well, would be appreciated. It's been an odd year for sure in a lot of different ways. We haven't been able to meet in person. We weren't able to have an in-person installation banquet in the summer when I started this adventure. not confident, but aren't still unsure if we will be able to do that this year. One of the things that we do at the outgoing president does as a tradition is to name some awards at the as you exit your year, name some recipients of some awards to special Rotarians who have offered themselves and gone above and beyond the call of duty with regard to how they have served our club and Rotary and so on. I want to make it was kind of became clear very recently that somebody has been very instrumental this year in helping a lot of all of us, but helping me in particular with putting some of the plans in action that have been identified about how to strengthen our club and how to continue to make it thrive. And that person has been Greg Bradbury. And Greg has taken the role of of membership chair and just taken it to a whole new level, and has brought new thoughts and excellence into recruiting, continuing to recruit and identify excellent new members. And in fact, in the midst of this crazy year of never being able to meet in person so far, we have continued to bring on wonderful people. And so will forever be grateful to Greg for what he has done to help our club and to identify those folks. He has, from the very beginning day of joining our club, brought an energy, a positivity, and just an excitement to our group. He has served with distinction, and I'm grateful for not only his service, but his friendship. And I want to share with you, this is with Greg's permission, I want to share with you just some sentiments about what our club and indeed Rotary as a whole has meant to him. This has meant an awful lot to him, and not just service above self, not just Rotary, not even just East Chapel Hill Rotary, but the friendships, the relationships, the support. Those things have meant an awful lot. And I have been touched in talking with Greg numerous times over this past week plus, about how much this means to him. And he's communicated that clearly. And I wanted to share that on his behalf. And it seemed only appropriate that the person who it was not even a question in my mind, who I was going to name Rotarian of the Year in the summer as I exit this role was going to be Greg Bradbury, and will continue to be Greg Bradbury. But I had the pleasure this morning of talking with Greg and letting him know my thoughts and my intent to do that. And he was humbled and grateful and asked that I pass along those thoughts to you all as well. Now, Greg is, as I mentioned, is in grave condition, and he's struggling to even take phone calls. He, in fact, he said, I love folks calling. He said, but I'm just not even able to very well do that at this point. Betty asked that he's unable to take visitors in person. Betty said, please feel free if you'd like to send a card or a note to do that, but he's struggling to even he's unable to attend via computer or to take many calls. Feel free to call, but he wanted folks to know, please don't be upset if I'm unable to take it and speak. So passing that along, Greg was unable to be with us today, but I've asked Rob Maitland, Greg's sponsor, the person who asked Greg to join our club, to say a few words to accept this recognition on Greg's behalf. Rob.
Thank you, Gavin. I wanted to put this picture up of Greg, but I guess I can't do that. Hold on just a second. Maybe I can do this. That looks funny.
Try again there, Rob. There you go.
That's strange. Gavin, it's been a tough week for Greg and Betty, and I know this award means a lot to Greg. Greg has been, as you mentioned, just an incredible member. It's funny how Greg and I met. We literally ran into each other. One morning, someone had tried to steal Allie's car, and we got in my car to chase the guy, and Allie was driving and backed the car right into Greg's Mercedes, brand new Mercedes, smashed into it. And Greg comes out, and that's how we met Greg and Betty. So we literally ran into each other and have been great friends ever since. And Greg's been a tremendous contributor to our club in a very short period of time. He's Rookie of the Year, my year, and then now he's Rotarian of the Year. And Greg is a Rotarian in the true meaning of it, the true sense of the word. His father was Rotarian, and he never really understood what Rotary is all about until he came to East Chapel Hill Rotary. And he says one of the greatest blessings of his life and one of the regrets of his life is that he didn't get involved sooner. But it was remarkable to me how he appreciated and acknowledged the quality of the people we have in this club. And one of the things that I would say is that we seem to forget that sometimes. We grow up, it's like a family, we kind of forget how special. But we have an incredible group of people in this club, and Greg saw that. I spoke with him yesterday. Here's a guy laying on his deathbed, and he's still, thinking about how to connect potential members for the club. And I asked him, I said, Greg, why is this so important to you at this time? And how do you do this? And he said, Greg, Rob, it's really easy. It sells itself. And I'm going to tell you that that's probably true, but it's never been true, at least in the years I've been in the club. It's always been hard for us to do the membership thing. And Greg has just made it look incredibly easy. And perhaps it's because he really believes in what we're all about. And I'm going to always be grateful for Greg to remind all of us what that's all about. And it's sad and it's depressing to think that Greg won't be with us. But on the other hand, I'm glad that we were able to get this award to him while he can still enjoy it. So thank you very much, Gavin.
Rob, thank you. And just to end on just one other note, Betty, I spoke to Betty this morning as well. Betty asked that I just be very clear to let folks know that Greg is not home. He would love to take visitors. He's not home. He's in palliative care and will be there. But I and she and he just ask that you continue to send positive thoughts, prayers, love their way, and I know that we'll do that. A few other announcements to round out our start here to the meeting. This week, upcoming week, is going to be, or coming soon, is going to be the Rotary Day of Service, April 16th. Actually, April 17th is that day. You likely received an email from our district. There are numerous ways that you can be involved that day across our general area. I want to acknowledge a great event that happened earlier this week. I had an emergency thing show up at the end of my day that busted my schedule, that prevented me from being there. But the family house had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new addition to the family house, and that's such a great celebration of a great accomplishment. We have so many members who have supported the family house, and our club, indeed, as a whole, has been a proud supporter both in service and in financial contribution to support that great endeavor. And so we were excited to see that happened this week. Now, I'd like to ask Alan Young to provide an update from the Green Team, a special announcement there regarding the Adopt a Highway program. Alan, are you on the call?
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for those words about Greg and Rob. Thank you. Greg was instrumental in us getting the Green Team going as well. And you all may not know this about Greg, but he hates waste and litter, and carries around a mug with him all the time so he can get water and not use other cups or mugs. But part of the Green Team has led to this wonderful Adopt a Highway for our club. And here is a picture of Linda, who's really spearheaded it in front of, isn't that sign wonderful? This is out in front of University Place.
Fabulous.
So we will have our first quarterly pickup on the weekend of April 24th and 5th, one of those mornings. We don't know yet whether it will be the Saturday or Sunday morning. Estes is perfect for our club. We're responsible for from MLK to Fordham. It's really in the heart of our our club and where many of us have lived our lives and live our lives. So we want to involve as many as we can. Linda and or I will be sending out more details. We're going to meet at the Estes Elementary School parking lot sometime one of those mornings and get equipment for everybody and divide up and really clean that area up. And we're going to dedicate this to our dear member friend Greg for all that he's done and for his friendship. So hope many of you will be able to join us. Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. Well, folks, that concludes our announcements. As we have had continually, we've had some just terrific programs, terrific speakers over the previous months, and we hope to continue that. We've got a great slate of programs lined up between now and the upcoming months. So I'm excited about. And so today would like to continue that trend. And I'm going to ask Nick Vaughn to introduce our speakers today. Nick.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. It's always good to be with, I think as we've just kind of articulated, that this is our family, and it's nice to be together as a family every Friday afternoon. Echo everyone's sentiments on our dear friend Greg. Thank you all for that. But as we pivot to our presentation today, y'all, we are lucky to have with us Ann Jones and Dan Gonzalez. They've also brought, I believe, a few members from their team, Jenny and Sawyer. So we'll look forward to getting to hear from them here in just a second. I believe a bunch of y'all are familiar with Ann, Dan, and their work at District C. Christy Jones was kind enough to introduce us, and we began chatting and thought, there might be a presentation here. And so we'll hear from them today. I'll let them give you any biographical information they want to share. Ann and Dan have spent time at Dartmouth and Harvard, places I can barely spell. So, I mean, that we're in good company here. And they are just doing amazing work in our public school systems. I was lucky enough to participate in my first District C call earlier today. And y'all, this is right up our alley with our mission with Rotary. I mean, and I think of Lorenzo's work with all the youth essays and this sort of thing. But District C is grabbing a hold of these kids who have an interest in leadership, entrepreneurship, problem solving, and giving them some space to really run with real world problems. And I'm just very excited to hear more. And we'll, I guess at this point, turn it over to both Ann, Dan, and their team. We're just glad you're here and welcome.
Thank you, Nick, so much. I have to say we've had, as you mentioned, the connection to your Rotary for really since the beginning, which, we celebrated our 4-year anniversary in February. And as you mentioned, Christy Jones has been a supporter of ours, actually invited us to come and join a lunch with you all way back when. And also Lyda Coleman was responsible for helping us put together the paperwork for our 501c3. So have sort of been connected really since the beginning. So what a cool opportunity for us to come and speak with you all today. Like I said, 4 or 5 years later from when this started. Well, the title of this session sort of as, oops, my sharing stopped. Let me get that back up here. All right, did that pop up for you guys again? All right, cool.
Yes.
The title of the session for today is a new model to meet the education challenge of our time. So where I'd like to start, and I'll speak briefly to kind of give you a sense of District C, but I want to move relatively quickly because once I give you a sense of District C, I'm also excited for you to hear from Jenny and Sawyer, a coach and a student, about the experience, sort of the first person account. But let's actually start, strangely enough, here. Basketball. 1984. This is, I'll get there, don't worry, but we're getting to the educational challenge of our time. So sports is often a metaphor for life, right? So, and this is a basketball state, so I thought this would be a good place to start. 1984 NBA, think back, right? This is short shorts, this is tall socks, this is Larry Bird, Magic Johnson time, right? believe it or not, and the three-pointer had been around for a while. Believe it or not, at that time, the average NBA team took 2 3-point attempts per team per game. Let that sink in for a second, right? I mean, that seems crazy, because if you pay any attention to basketball, men or women's at all, right, you'd know that today the average NBA team is taking 34 3-point attempts per team per game. And I mean, honestly, this is true in the men's and the women's game. I mean, even Breanna Stewart, who is a 6'4" power forward for the Seattle Storm, even she alone as a player is taking 4 3-point attempts per game. So the question is, what's going on? Well, clearly, from 1984 to today, the game has changed. The game has changed. It's a different kind of game. It's now a 3-point game. But not surprisingly, preparation for that game has also changed, right? If you're an aspiring player, whether you want to play on your varsity high school team or a collegiate team or for the pros, you are learning to shoot the 3 and guard the 3 because it's a 3-point game. All right, put a pin in that for a second. A few years ago, Gallup interviewed hiring managers, CEOs of companies, and asked them, how many of you strongly agree that recent college graduates are prepared with the competencies they need to thrive in your business? 11% said yes. That's 16 years of investment in time and money. It's a surprising result. So it begs the question, right? What's going on here? Well, our point of view is that what's going on here is that the game has changed. We are now a different kind of economy than we were 1984 to today. So the kind of talent and the kind of preparation, all those things have changed. Now, if you're wondering what's driving that change, you're probably not, because I think most of us know this, right? This quote from Gina Rometty sort of sums up what's making the game change. What's interesting to me about this particular quote is 2 things. One, 100% of jobs. What's happening in technology with AI and machine learning, right, is not just affecting STEM or technical skills or manufacturing. It is, by her prediction, affecting 100% of jobs. So all of you that run businesses, work at businesses, did work at businesses, it's affecting all sizes, all sectors, and all levels of employment. Second thing that's shocking is the rate of change, 5 to 10 years, that's quick. So this is what's driving the change. So we better ask ourselves, in terms of preparing for this kind of 3-point economy, if you will, right? This 3-point game, what does that mean for us as educators? Well, what that means is that we better be sure we're not preparing 2-point players for a 3-point game. What that means is that we need to understand what a 3-point player is, so that we can begin to prepare for that. Well, bringing it a little closer to home, here's what Carl Rydeen says. I love this. We need to spend less time teaching our students how to be bad computers and more time teaching them how to be great humans. So think about that, right? What are humans really good at? We're good at the messy stuff. So it shouldn't be surprising that when you ask those same hiring managers, what are the kinds of competencies you're looking for? A couple of things come to the top. We need people who know how to be team players. We need people who know how to leverage the diverse strengths of a team, and we need thinkers. We need problem solvers, right? We need folks that can come to the table, work together when we don't know the right answer, when we're not sure why it's happening, when we're not sure if the solution we put forth will work. And they can drive through that. So what District C has done is taken a laser-like focus at this. All right, we understand our economy is changing. The game has changed. We need 3-point players for a 3-point economy. We have a sense of the kind of talent that we need. We need to help our young people get better at being team players and thinking through complexity, solve novel problems. So how do you do that? The District C model is pretty simple. What we have created is an experience. And there are 2 important parts to this. One, you got to let them play. If they're going to get better at the work of the real world, if they're going to be a great 3-point player, You gotta let them play. You gotta let them do the real work. The second part of our model is they need a great coach. Probably all of us have been thinking a lot about a great coach recently. You need a great coach, right? This is no mystery in sports. You would never put 5 people together who had never played basketball, pair them up with another 5 people who never played basketball and said, go play basketball. You just wouldn't do that. We need to begin to think the same way about preparing three-point talent for a three-point economy. You got to let them play, but they need a great coach. The model that we've built, we call teamship. Think of it as sort of a team-based internship, right? They're doing real work, but they're working in this diverse team. Our students come together and they are diverse in every way you can imagine. But this is a really intentional part of our model. We believe that if you can leverage the strengths of a diverse team, you can act at a higher level of more homogeneous teams. You can outperform. Places like Google have shown through their research this is true as well. The teamship model also, as I've said, is about playing the real game, right? When I say let them play, I'm not talking about case studies. I'm not talking about artificial practice. Teamship puts our students talking to real businesses. In the upper left-hand corner is Sanja, the founder of Courtroom 5, a Durham-based business. They provide online legal consulting services. This is a group of students. The other 3 are high school students. They are interviewing Sonia and finding out about a real problem, not made up, not something that maybe she'll get to in 2 years, real, contemporary, happening to the business now. They're finding out about her company, the problem. They then go in, and you'll notice that we've been doing this virtually. I'll tell you, we've been doing this virtually pre-COVID because this is the way the world works, right? It's working a lot more this way recently, but even before COVID, businesses were leveraging digital tools, and they are coached through a process of solving that real problem for that business. So that's the model, right? Teamship. Diverse teams of students coached through a process of solving a real problem for a real business, preparing three-point talent for a three-point economy. But at the heart of this are our coaches. A District C certified coach has put in over 50 hours of professional development to achieve their District C coaching certification. These are 5 coaches that are part of the Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools. We learn from these folks every time we talk to them. It's such a joy for us as Dan and I as co-founders to really be a part of the learning with them. And they are able to take teamship back to their schools and offer this to students. Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools has been a true leader in this initiative. We are now working across the state of North Carolina and in fact in other states as well, including Virginia and Indiana. But nobody's done yet what Chapel Hill Carborough has done. And that is to create a full year honors course for students to sign up so that they can get better at the three-point game. These coaches are coaching these students through working in teams to solve real problems for local business. So here comes the most interesting part of what you're going to hear from us today. Dan, I'd like to have you and Jenny and Sawyer take it from here so that you all can really hear, well, what does the teamship experience sound like when it's really being implemented in the school? What's the experience of the student? What's the experience of the coach? Jenny and Sawyer, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Ann. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Sawyer. Do you all want to introduce yourselves really quickly? Jenny, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Jenny Hoffman. I am a native Chapel Hillian, so I went to Phillips and Chapel Hill High. I left and went away to Smith College, and then I came back and I got my master's at UNC in Latin. So I'm a Latin teacher in addition to being a District C certified coach. And my family, also grew up in the area. My husband actually, Courtney, it was interesting to hear what you were talking about because my husband was, his father was David Hoffman. So at the business school, actually, he was an accounting professor. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I will let Sawyer take it over now.
Great. Sawyer, are you on?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sawyer. I'm a senior at East Chapel Hill High right now. This is my first year taking District C, of course. and I'm planning on going to college next year, right here in Chapel Hill at the University of North Carolina.
All right, well, that's news. We didn't know that. This is a perfect match. All right, so I've got a couple of, we're going to kind of do this panel style. I'm going to ask you both a couple of questions so you can share your District C experience. Jenny, can you start? Tell us a little bit about the course that you are helping to facilitate and coach at East Chapel Hill and Chapel Hill High School.
Sure. Okay. So I teach District C with 3 colleagues, one from East Chapel Hill High School, McLean Mustin, and then 2 from Chapel Hill High. And actually, the one benefit of the pandemic is we have been able to teach the class together remotely. So if we were in person, we'd be in different classrooms at different schools teaching the course, but because we've been all remote for most of the year, we've been able to teach every class together. So we started off the year, I think we have about 22 students, and we started off the year with teaching them some tools of how to work together. Sorry, there's the school, there's the bell for class. And teaching them tools like how to question people and how to take some time for themselves, some solo fight. So different tools that will help them work together. And then we are currently in our 5th cycle. So we've had 5 cycles up until now. Our first cycle was strictly a school-based cycle. So East Chapel Hill students worked on a problem that East Chapel Hill was having, and Chapel Hill High did the same for their school. And then our second cycle was a district problem. So we combined forces and worked with the district, so people at Lincoln Center, to address problems that the district was having. And then our 3rd and 4th cycles and our 5th cycle, we have worked with local businesses to help try and address some of the problems that they've been having in their businesses. And each cycle is approximately 4 to 6 weeks, though it is varied slightly based on the school calendar. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. So Sawyer, a question for you. You're clearly an accomplished student. You're going to go to a high-powered university. I imagine your grades are not too shabby. I imagine you've taken a few AP courses. You have a lot of things going on in your life. Why in the world would you choose to do a District C elective course that does not come with AP credit, especially in the face of all the other busy things you've got going on in your life? Why'd you choose to do this?
Sure. Well, I believe in winter 2020, I attended with my mom a District C event at Chapel Hill High School. So this was their first pitch night, I believe. And we were there watching 3 businesses and 3 groups of students present. And immediately the hands-on nature of District C immediately drew me to the course. And just seeing how passionate both the students in that class and the business partners were about the work they were doing. It didn't seem like any other class I had taken in high school in terms of the fact that the work those students were doing in District C was for the benefit of others, those people being their business partners rather than just themselves. And that night, of course, I found myself brainstorming the feasibility of those ideas, thinking of new ideas I might bring to the table if I were working in those groups. So I was immediately hooked on the idea of District C. And of course, next year, it being the first time it had been at East Chapel Hill, I decided to sign up for it.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Sawyer. Jenny, coming back to you. So you're a Latin teacher. How does teaching District C, how does coaching District C differ in your mind from kind of more traditional academic teaching? Like how does your approach shift?
So actually, Garrison said something really interesting today. It's something that that's one of my fellow coaches. He said something that really resonated with me, and it really speaks to the course. There's no answer key. So like there's no right or wrong answer. It's a totally different way of thinking about education. And it's very different from what I do as a Latin teacher, because we translate Latin, we talk about the Latin, we talk about the Romans, we talk about their impact on our lives. And there is an answer key. And there often is a right answer versus a wrong answer. And that's not the case with District C. It's really working with other people. We're solving problems that I would have never thought that I would have ever been thinking about as a Latin teacher or even as a teacher. And I found myself recently thinking through problems in a District C mindset, even Latin problems, like, okay, here's the problem. Now let me, get some more information and let's, really going through the process of getting stakeholder information, data, and then, ideating and doing all of these things that I would do in District C. So it's actually impacted what I do as a Latin teacher in a way that I never imagined. So it's a very different process. There's no worksheets, there's no tests, it's strictly performance-based, and it's collective. So it's always about, like working with a team. And that's something that you don't get a lot in education. And I think Sawyer also brought in another important point, is that we're doing this with and for other people. So it's not, like for a grade. It's not something that I'm doing this because I need to get a grade. It's because it has a real impact on other people and their livelihoods. So it's very different from what I do as a Latin teacher, though I'm starting to bring District C more and more into what I do as a Latin teacher. And truthfully, I wish I could do District C all day long.
Well, let's pick up on this point about adding value for others. And Sawyer, I'd love to hear, can you just talk through an example of a business that you and your teammates have worked with? What was the problem they brought to you? What was the solution that you took back to them, and how did it go? How did it play out?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. In our third cycle, me and a couple of roommates worked with a company called Silver Quicken. And Silver Quicken is an immersive educational experience for middle schoolers. It's a course that they would take outside of school online. There are about 10 classes involving puzzles, their stories, all kinds of things. And it's designed to improve their critical thinking and their problem solving skills. So their assignment for us was pretty simple. It could be taken in a lot of directions, but it was to increase growth and signups in the course. Right now, they have about 40 kids have taken the first volume. By the end of 2021, they want to hit about 300 students enrolled in the course, and by 2022, 3,000 ultimately. So pretty high numbers there, of course. So we had a lot to think about with that. And my group came up with a number of fantastic solutions to this problem. We showed them ways they could incorporate marketing through social media, posting mini puzzles on that, highlighting the stories of specific characters within the Silver Quicken story. My biggest contribution to this problem cycle was suggesting Silver Quicken implement a full-on referral program, complete with referral codes, in which parents, families, and students that had taken the course could receive discounts if they shared a referral code, providing a link to sign up for Silver Quicken with other people they knew. And of course, those people that had received the referral code could also receive a discount themselves if they signed up for the course. So the incentive was mainly, if we can spread the word around this program, Silver Quicken, we can give people discounts as an incentive to do so, and hopefully that brings more people to sign up for it. So of course, all the work we do in District C is we have to root it in a lot of research about why we think it would work. So I backed up this idea with several statistics, research about how a referral program has worked at other companies in the past. I provided several different directions they could take this idea, and as well as possible referral program software they use. So I've been in communication with the founder of Silver Quicken over the past couple months. His name is Chris Ryan. And their second volume, of course, that sign up for that course just concluded a couple of weeks ago. And I was so excited to hear that they had increased their signups for that course by 44%, even with the higher list price for the course than it had been in their first volume. So even with that higher price tag on it, through the use of the referral program we suggested, they were able to implement that relatively quickly. They increased their signups by nearly 50%. So it's something that me and my group mates took a lot of pride in, that they were able to achieve this so quickly, and that our solutions came to fruition in that kind of way. It was awesome.
Yeah, and just for you all to know, Silver Quicken is a new startup based in Carborough. So it's a local business. And to Sawyer's point, I mean, Chris and his team at Silver Quicken are using the solution. And in fact, 87% of District C business partners report back that they either plan to use or have already started using parts of the student solutions, which is phenomenal. Another statistic I will give you is that 93% of our business partners say they are more likely to hire a student for an internship or a job if they have participated in a District C experience. And I think, Sawyer, you have a short story to tell about that as well. Is that true?
I'm not quite sure. I know that I have been in contact with Silver Quicken after we finished the cycle, of course. They've asked me to be on a Zoom call with them, suggesting where they take this referral program, in what direction they take it. So I'm sure that I will continue to be in communication with them as they continue their next round of cycles. And that's very exciting to know that these relationships we've cultivated with our business partners throughout District C doesn't just end when we finish talking with them in class. It can go on for many months and a long time after that. So is that what you were getting at, Dan?
Yeah. I thought I had heard from Jenny and Garrison that you'd been in contact with them. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Great. Jenny, I'll kick it back to you. And I also want to leave some time for some questions from the audience. And I know Jenny and Sawyer need to be out by 2 o'clock. So I'll ask just 2 more questions of you all, and then we'll open it up. We'll open up the floor. Jenny, how has this, as an educator, as a teacher, probably the hardest job on the planet. Ann and I know we were teachers, classroom teachers as well. How has this experience changed you?
So thanks, Dan. I think I touched on it a little bit in my answer to the last question. It really, for me personally, it has changed how I approach problems. But as a teacher, it has really opened up my eyes to, some of the behaviors and things that we were taught. I was taught in a very traditional fashion. I mean, I teach Latin, so it's fairly traditional. It's not computer tech. It's going on the computer and doing all this remote stuff is something fairly new for me as a Latin teacher. But District C has really opened my eyes to things that we could be doing differently in education that I think would have a really huge impact on not just our students and the school, but the community and the world at large, really encouraging them to think through real problems. Because we don't do that enough. And I can say that, as a Latin teacher, I don't do that enough. We're talking about, Caesar conquering the Gauls. Well, what relation, what does that have any relevance to their daily lives? But what I do in District C is absolutely relevant to their daily lives. And it's skills that they can bring back to, college, to other classes, to, jobs. And these are the things that I wish that we were doing more in education, because education has changed, and the job force has changed. And the jobs that my daughters are going to be, working on getting and trying to apply for right now are very different than the jobs that I was looking at. So I think that we really need to, as educators, think about how the game, as Ann said, has changed and how we really need to be preparing our students. So for me, it has impacted the way that I view education and what I'm offering as an educator and how I am training my students. Because really, in the end, I'm not a Latin teacher, I'm a teacher, right? I teach students. And my goal is to have them, leave my classroom with skills that they can use in everyday life, in their jobs, in their other classes, in their community, at home with their families, all of those things. So I need to be relevant. And I think District C is absolutely relevant. So that's really how it's impacted me. It's really impacted my shift in thinking about what I'm doing as an educator and what's purposeful and meaningful for our students right now.
Sawyer, how would you answer that same question? How has this changed you?
Well, I believe District C has motivated me to go above and beyond, more so than in almost any other class that I've taken throughout high school. In most other classes, students can kind of just float along if they wanted to. kind of skip studying for a test here and there, skip doing their homework here and there. Not that I would do any of those things, of course, but District C is the complete opposite of that. Your business partner is truly counting on you to deliver real value to the company that is their life's work. So if you decide to slack off or not put forth your best effort for a given cycle, you've not only let down your teachers and the group mates that you're partnered with, but you've wasted that person's time, that business partner that has really made an investment in you and spent their time with you, hoping that you can help them with their business. So what I love about the course is that desire to rise to the occasion and pressure of finding the answer to a unique problem that a business is struggling with is one that I can't say I've felt in any other class. That feeling of the work that you do is someone is really relying on that. And when you do succeed and you do meet the needs and expectations of your business partner, it is an extremely rewarding high. And it's great to share that feeling with your group mates and classmates who you've worked so hard with over the past month or more, finding the answer to this problem. So I think that's my favorite thing about the course, and obviously how those skills will translate later in life when I'm in college, even down the road in the future professionally. Those skills of meeting someone else's needs, feeling that that pressure and expectation, and meeting it is my favorite part.
Great. Well, let's take the next 4 minutes or so. And if anyone has questions for Sawyer or Jenny, and then if we have time after 2 o'clock, if you have questions for Ann or me, we can dive into that. Nick, we'll leave that to you if we've got time. But yeah, Richard, what question do you have for Jenny or Sawyer?
Well, if you're being trained, if you will, to shoot a 3, and they change the 3 to a 4, and or change the circumference of the basket, instead of being 2 times the size of the ball, it's 1.5 times. What are you learning now that's going to allow you to translate into that changed court?
That's a big question. Sawyer, do you want to take it?
Sure, I guess. I think that District C is really a class that asks you to adapt, like you were mentioning there, Richard. We've had 5 cycles throughout this year of high school, and they've all asked me and my group mates to do completely different things. I've worked with completely different group members in all of them. I've had different roles in the groups that I've been a part of. Some of them you have to take that leadership role. Other times you're working with someone else as a leader. You have a different role in the group. So I think District C, it throws a lot of challenges at you, kind of like the analogy you were mentioning, basketball wise, and it forces you to take those challenges on head on and meet them.
Jenny, anything to add to that, or did Sawyer kind of slam dunk that?
I think Sawyer answered it perfectly.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Any other questions? Kind of scanning the room here.
And Steve, I think we'll be sure there's nothing else for Jenny and Sawyer. We'll grab that one when they have to hop off here. I see that in the chat.
Any other questions, folks? We usually have some great questions. We've already had that. Dick, that was a great question. Folks, if you want to raise your hand on the chat feature or type in the chat or just speak out and go for it, we'd love to have some questions.
You see Lida there? Hello.
I think you are muted, Lida. Here we go.
I've seen some things about you in various periodicals and so forth, and it seems that you have had, really a very impressive group of sponsors. And I was wondering how quickly that happened, and were these solicited, or were these ones you had worked with in your program?
Yeah, great question. And, actually, Jenny, if you can think of a couple of businesses that you all have worked with, my kind of big answer to that, Lida, is a lot of this has just been through meeting people. We've had great introductions. A business partner comes on board, they meet somebody, they have a great experience, they introduce us to somebody else. So a lot of the connections we've made, but Jenny, what are some examples of businesses that you all have connected with, just to give a feel of the type?
Well, as Nick Vaughn said, we're actually working with him right now. One of my squads is working with him in kitchen and bath hours right now. The other two businesses that we're working with are Exec Socks, which does socks for the executive, hence the name Exec Socks, but they're also expanding into accessories. And so they're trying to think about how to combine the accessories and the socks subscription services. Last cycle we worked with a company called Trackid that does bands for children at zoos and amusement parks, so that parents can, not just track them, but have an interactive experience with their children as they're experiencing the amusement parks and the zoos. In that same cycle, in cycle 4, we also worked with a company called VitaFlow that does an app for your phone that tests your asthma levels that then they can share with doctors and keep more abreast of the care that they're giving. But their problem actually had to do with internal communication within the company. And that same cycle in cycle 4, the last cycle we did, we also worked with Fleet Feet and bringing in return customers. So we work with a real variety of different customers that have, very vastly different issues that each company is dealing with, because all of the companies are so different, but they are all local. So that's a real motivating factor for our students, because these are people who live, in Carborough. I know that one of my students is a neighbor of the Silver Quicken owner, and she's like, "Oh, I do some work for him," and he says hi. So it's a local. It's a real local, feel.
Purple Bowl also has been a partner with us. I'm trying to think of other, it's been a really wonderful opportunity to just keep meeting all the amazing businesses and companies and entrepreneurs. And again, it really, as Jenny said, it's all sizes, it's all sectors, it's, companies that have been around for 100 years, it's companies that started, 100 days ago. So, as I like to say, everybody's got problems. And so when you go to a business and say, "Hey, do you have a problem that we could coach some students to work on?" The answer is usually, "Sure, I have 10. Which one do you want?" So, that's been a real positive. Jenny and Sawyer, I know you all have to go. Thank you all so much. Dan and I, as Dan said, are happy to stick around. But I did just want to give the claps to Jenny and Sawyer. Really appreciate you all.
Done.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank
y'all
you
have a great rest of your day. Steve, I wanted to grab your question, and then Jody, I see you have a question as well, real quick. Yes, in terms of expansion into more schools, let me just screen share again quickly to give you a sense. So this will just give you a sense of the reach of District C at the moment. As I mentioned, we do have some schools and programs in Danville, Virginia, as well as Indianapolis, Indiana. But this gives you a sense of our profile in North Carolina. And, again, really kind of the same as Talida's questions around how do we meet businesses. We are meeting superintendents, CTE directors, principals, educators that are finding out about us through other people as the word is getting out. And they care about the work. I mean, I think there are folks like Jenny who understand the value and really are bought into this kind of, their role, as Jenny said, is I'm a teacher first and want to be part of preparing the 3-point player. So a lot of it is just relationships, right? And it's out meeting people and letting them know and finding people that want to be a part of the work, which is, we're excited to say, in partnership reached over 1,200 students. Actually, that number is about to jump up because we've got a cycle starting tomorrow in Virginia. So that'll be closer to 1,230. So it's growing every day as our coaches are out there doing the work. Jody, wanted to be sure to get to your question as well.
Thank you, although I think that actually it would have been for Jenny.
Ah, shoot.
I can ask it, but it's really more, I'm a classical archaeologist. And so I had and I'm actually delighted to hear that Latin is still being taught in high schools, public schools in this country. But unfortunately, I don't think that it would benefit to ask you the question. So thank you.
Of course, then we're happy to, if you want to send us an email, we can be sure to get that question to Jenny. And I'm sure that she would be happy to respond. In case it's helpful, these are our emails right here. Sorry about that, Jody.
Well, Ann and Dan, thank you both for sharing your time with us today. This was fantastic. This is such a cool endeavor, and I think I'll say was super impressed by Sawyer, and just it's really cool to see what you guys are doing. This is excellent. So thank you so much for sharing, and keep up the great work. This is fantastic.
Thank you all so much for the
Thanks for
opportunity.
having us.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, folks, thank you for joining us today. I wish everybody a safe and happy weekend, and we'll look forward to tuning in next time. My best to all.